Hi, Islamic Dad here. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Today I'm going to do a list of recommendations as far as other YouTube channels that I think are extremely valuable resources. And I don't think that this is a video I've made before. I've been meaning to do it for quite a long time. But it's, I think, for the better, because as time has gone on, I've stumbled upon and honestly been introduced to great channels, from my viewers as time has gone on. So I'm able to share those with my audience. The first one I'll start off with is Dr. Ramani. Dr. Ramani is what I would call the default entry level resource on YouTube for people trying to find answers to their narcissistic partner, narcissistic abuse, etc. She's really good, but at the same time, I will say that I feel like she's kind of an entry level resource, because she's touching a lot of the broader, high-level topics, but at, in my opinion, kind of a more surface level, just to kind of let you know where things are, give an explanation, and so that if you've no idea what, say, the devalue phase is, or what, kind of the manipulation and verbal games are that narcissists do. Right off the bat, if you're just like an easy to digest go-to, I definitely recommend Dr. Ramani. The other one is a channel called Surviving Narcissism with Dr. C. I'm not, at this, the moment I'm making this video, I'm not remembering his full name. But he's very similar to Dr. Ramani in his approach to what subjects he does videos on, and also kind of the level of depth that he goes into. He goes into, I think, a little bit more depth, and his approach is very interesting, because his approach is different than any other narcissistic resource that I'm aware of, where his, no insult to Dr. C, but I kind of feel like he has like a toolbox, and there's one tool in the toolbox, and that is setting boundaries. And basically his whole approach to any problem that you have with a narcissistic relative, narcissistic coworker, narcissistic boss, narcissistic partner, narcissistic spouse, anything, is to just set a boundary, make it crystal clear, state the consequences, and do not give an inch. Just, enforce the boundary, and if need to, enforce the consequence. But basically that is his approach to dealing with narcissists across the board. And for me, I think that's helpful to an extent, but kind of a one-note song. The next person that I'm going to mention is Darren F Magee. He is one of the two what I would call psychologists, more scientific, much more like, let's get to the details of what's happening, why it's happening, kind of the implications of what's happening, kind of the psychological background, what the psychological research says, and kind of an easy way to get into that world, if you're so inclined. Some people don't care and don't find knowing that level of information helpful to their own personal circumstances. Other people, like myself, can't get enough. It is really illuminating to a lot of the more minute, strange traits and behaviors that narcissistic, portray. The next one I'm going to mention is Professor Sam Vaknin, or Vaknin. In my opinion, he's the best. He's kind of amazing, honestly, in that not only is he very erudite and scholarly and well-versed and well-researched on the psychological end of things, but he's also a self-aware narcissist. He does not make that the crux of his channel or the information that he says, but when he is explaining things from, say, why does a narcissist do XYZ, he'll slip into the first person. And it's with reason. I mean, from my understanding, people that have dealt with him, at a more personal one-on-one level will attest to him being a narcissist. And you can certainly take that any way you'd like. But as far as the information that he shares in his channel on YouTube, to me it's invaluable. I mean, he explains things to a depth and an extent that I have not seen really any other channel reach. And so if you want to get to the roots, and I mean deep, a foot under in the soil roots of narcissism, why they do things, motivations, the psychological, trauma that created them, etc. Definitely check out his channel. Completely going, well, to a certain extent, when he is mental healness, and of course I didn't write down his name, but I think it's Lee Hammock something. He's hilarious. He is a self-aware narcissist, and really makes that the crux of his channel and what he's providing to people, is that he just says, this is the way it is from a narcissist. This is as messed up as it is. This is it. This is the truth. And so, but he does it with a lot of humor. And it's interesting to me because for, his motivation, he's been very blind. And a lot of the self-aware narcissists will say this. They're like, they will just come out right and say, there's no cure. There's no treatment per se. The best that I can do is to be a self-aware narcissist and be aware of my behavior and how it impacts the people around me. And that's as good as it gets. And so he's very honest about being that person, like being that narcissist, but he's able to share this information, in his YouTube channel with the motivation of being the best self-aware narcissist, which I find is hilarious. I mean, it's good that he's trying to be helpful, but it's also hilarious that you would have a narcissist say, yeah, I'm a narcissist, and you know what? I'm going to be the best narcissist. I'm going to be better than all the other narcissists. And so that's kind of what, his motivation is with his channel. The one thing I will say is that, he really doesn't go deep the way some of the, other people, other resources I've mentioned have gone, which is fine. He's not trying to reach, necessarily that audience. And also, I personally think that he kind of makes a mistake where he will say something as fact, but in reality, he's not stating a fact. He's saying, this is my personal truth as a narcissist. He might say, this is the reason, this is the motivation behind, say, this behavior. And he will say it in such a way that it sounds like that's true for all narcissists on the planet for all time, when I don't think that's true. I think that there is some variance between narcissists, and some do things and some don't, and some have some motivations and others have other motivations. And so, and to some extent, I think he is aware of that. So he does kind of add a caveat, in there, half the time. But, okay, one that I was recommended to on this channel recently, who's kind of, again, an amazing resource, the Nameless Narcissist. Self-aware narcissist. And he is raw to an extent that I don't see with any of the other self-aware narcissists. It's so funny when people talk about like a false self with regard to narcissist, because when he's on, when he's doing his videos for his channel, he is switching back and forth, and you can see it, where he will, kind of be in his persona, presenting that, and just like a light switch, boom, and he'll just start, spewing from the depths of his soul, like his internal experience, and then switch, light switch, just, and then back to persona. And so it is kind of amazing to watch his videos. The information he gives is good, but it's a lot of the same information you hear, to some degree from, like, say, other self-aware narcissists or other people. But the difference is the delivery, and the difference is the person sharing that information and the emotional punch that has coming from someone who is speaking from the core of their soul. And so, or as people would say, the core of his emptiness. And he talks about that often. So, definitely, I would say, like, even if you don't like the channel, check out like one or two of his videos, because there's nothing like it. So the last, again, another one that was recommended to me, by a viewer on the channel, goes by H.G. Tudor, Tudor. Very well spoken, very articulate, very well read, and also introspective, which is a good combination. And he is kind of the opposite. He's a self-aware narcissist, and kind of to some degree an opposite of the people I just mentioned, and that he is very much a grandiose of all grandiose narcissist. And I don't necessarily, remember like his specific motivation, but regardless, his perspective is that he's above even other narcissists. He's just above, everyone. And so, it will come from this kind of, proclamations from the mountaintop. And that's kind of the tone he'll have sharing information. That said, again, it's incredibly invaluable because, one, he is, very much a self-aware narcissist, and two, he's very articulate. Like I wouldn't necessarily put him at the scholarly level of, say, Darren F Magee or Professor Sam Vaknin. But that said, he's very introspective, very articulate, and I assume well read. And so again, he will just lay it out the way it is in a way that only self-aware narcissists can. And so I wanted to share these resources with you. There is another woman who is not a self-aware narcissist. She is a domestic or narcissistic abuse survivor, and that's the perspective that she's coming from. And she's educated herself and does her best to try to help people understand and regain control of their lives and thrive. But for whatever reason, she completely avoids YouTube, and she focuses on TikTok, which I'm not a fan of. But if I get time, I'll try to find a link to her channel and either save it in the description or save it as a comment, in the comments below. So, thanks.